their seats. Who is the future? And a week full of controversial questions and decisions. Plus, changing the flow in downtown Detroit. Today is Sunday, December 10th, 2017. This is Flashpoint.
Hello and welcome to Flashpoint. I'm Sandra Ali. Devin Skillian is on assignment. It has been an extraordinary week of news. Moving on to the next chapter. Congressman Sandra Levin and John Conyers both announcing this week it's time to go. Who will run and which names are already being tossed into the ring? A victory for the Trump administration. The Supreme Court decides it will allow the president's newest version of the travel ban to take effect while challenges to the ban continue to work their way through the legal system. Also this week, President Trump officially declares Jerusalem as Israel's capital, an announcement cheered by some, condemned by others. Whenever you talk about Jerusalem, emotions run high, and few cities outside the region are more personally affected than ours. How will the decision be received around the world? And I've got two words for you: net neutrality. Stay with me. We're going to break it all down. We're going to break down what it means and how this coming week could bring a big win for internet service providers. But what about you, the consumer? We're going to talk about the FCC possibly eliminating rules that really would change the industry. Plus, changing lanes in downtown Detroit. We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to try to get to all of it this morning on Flashpoint. Joining me this morning are a couple of attorneys. We have Clark Hill's Reggie Turner with us this morning, head of the City of Detroit's Civil Rights Division, Portia Roberson. And here on my other side, we have the journalists with us today, Detroit News editorial page editor Nolan Finley and Detroit Free Press columnist Nancy Kaffer. Thank you so much for all being with us today. We're going to go ahead and start with some long-held congressional seats that will be up for grabs soon. We're going to talk about who might be running to fill those seats. And we should note that at least one of our guests has had their name bandied about. We have to start by talking about that. Reggie, are you ready to share anything with anyone?
Not today.
No?
I think that we all have to focus on how we got here and understand that there are a number of women who have been hurt, whose careers have been damaged as a result of their feeling that they had been unduly treated in the workplace. And so it's also a sad day to lose the seniority that we're losing in Congress. It's hard to get anything done in the U.S. Congress if you're not a senior member with clout on committees. And so that's a big loss for us, both with respect to Mr. Conyers and with respect to Mr. Levin from a power standpoint for Southeastern Michigan. And
we're talking about a lot of seats open here at the same time. Nolan, you had mentioned you can't remember a time when we had this number.
We've got 3 seats open in Southeast Michigan.
Right.
We've had 2 and 3 seats open before,
sure,
but not so much of our Metro Detroit delegation. You've got Dave Trott announced his retirement, Sandy Levin announced his, and now Conyers, of course, forced out of Congress. And you've got out there a lot of term-limited state lawmakers and others who are looking for their next step. I think it'll be hard to find someone who isn't running for Congress in this region.
Let's drop some names. I mean, what are you hearing in your circles?
I think Nolan's right. I think it's easier to list the names that aren't running than it is to list the names that are running. I've heard, the current elected officials, state lawmakers, city council members. I heard today, or this past week, the candidate that just ran for mayor, Coleman Young Jr. So there are going to be quite a few names in this race, and I think that's going to cross over from not only the 13th district seat, but all the other seats.
And the whole Conyers family, I think, is running as a slate.
Right. I mean, John Conyers III, right? I mean, we've heard that name. Does he have the experience?
Well, of course, he doesn't have the experience or the reputation, and he's got a spotty background. This city has been burnt twice now by people with the last name of Conyers, been embarrassed by them. I think they might want to move higher up in the alphabet.
I would separate Ian
Nancy,
Conyers. I would separate Ian Conyers from that embarrassment that you just talked about, Nolan. I think that Ian has been a fine legislator. He's a state senator. He's from a different wing of the family.
Very inexperienced still, very green still. He could use a few more years.
He's had a few years in the legislature, and I think he would be a very suitable potential candidate for this.
There's a lot of candidates.
There will be a lot of candidates. We're going to have a lot of people to choose from.
You know, and every name you guys has been mentioned so far has been a city candidate. This district straddles the city and the suburbs. State Senator David Kanizik has been mentioned as someone who might throw their hat into this ring. And the way this district is set up and where the votes fall, you really have to run the table on the city or the suburbs, right? And if you have a hugely packed city ticket, number of Conyers is on the ballot, number of strong city candidates. If there's one suburban candidate, that person could do pretty well, or vice versa. If there are a lot of suburban candidates and one strong city candidate, it's kind of got to.
But Bill Wild is also looking at it, Mayor of Westland. So, you know, if I agree, if either Kanizik or Wild ran and the other one didn't, and nobody else got in, and you're likely to have 7, 8 city candidates for sure. We've already heard well more than that number of names. I agree. I think it's 1/3. The district's 1/3 suburban, 2/3 Detroit. I think. Yeah, a suburban candidate could emerge.
And this will be settled in the primary. This is not one that will go to the general. It's all Democrats. So this will be settled in August before maybe a lot of voters are really. We have a much lower turnout in a primary. So
I think it's going to be settled.
It's going to be worse.
I agree. I think it's going to be settled.
Primary.
It'll be settled in the special election.
Yeah.
Whoever wins that
primary.
in that special election, which could come 6 weeks, 7 weeks from now, I think whoever wins that is going to be the next congressman for a long time.
And how about this? I mean, we've heard all the, you know, the long list of names. Who should run?
Reggie.
What about Portia?
Well, I don't know if there's somebody we should necessarily pick. I think what has to happen, I think Nancy's absolutely right. I think what has to happen is people have to get together and decide on a strong candidate that can run. I think it defeats the purpose if you have too many candidates. We've seen it happen before in city council races. It just gets to be a mess. And I don't necessarily know that in those instances the best candidate rises to the top because everybody pulls off a little faction. So I just hope that in this seat, because it is a Democratic seat, that Democrats talk to one another and make sure that they're supporting the strongest candidate.
Reggie, ideas on who should run?
Well, I hear Brenda Jones' name mentioned, and she has clearly done a good job as a leader on the Detroit City Council. The civility on the council is at its best in recent memory under her leadership. I think she's a person who works collaboratively with others to get things done, and that's important in Congress. The question is whether she would want to give up this role she has played in the resurgence of the city of Detroit to go to Washington and become a freshman member of Congress.
Yeah, we're going to know very shortly, though, because they're not going to have a whole lot of time. I think one thing voters should keep in mind, we should be wary of dynasties. These seats aren't family assets to be passed generation to generation. As soon as Sandy Levin announced his retirement, Andy Levin put his hat in. If he was Andy Levine, he wouldn't have a chance in this race. Nothing about his record or background qualifies him for that office. And so I think voters need to look beyond family names and get themselves a good representative in Congress in all of these districts.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the Supreme Court decision. This was big news this week. You know, many American Muslims extremely disappointed by this. That's probably an understatement, disheartened. Another way to describe it, when the Supreme Court allowed the president to put the ban on Muslim immigration into place. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I would, it's Donald Trump. I mean, I'm saddened by the fact that the Supreme Court would allow this Muslim ban to go into effect, especially during a time when they're still contemplating the law and whether it's a lawful ban. It does nothing but separate families from one another, not allow people to travel back and forth. There's absolutely no proof that somebody traveling over here should be banned from this country simply because they happen to be a Muslim. I've said in the last few weeks, and certainly with regard to this decision, I don't find any Muslim to pose any more threat to me than any white American man who seems to be out there with a gun now taking out people in Las Vegas or wherever else there may be. So I think it's an overreach. I mean, hopefully the Supreme Court, as they hear this case, will decide it more reasonably.
Yeah, I think people need to understand that this ruling at a preliminary stage in the case is not a decision on the merits of the Muslim ban. It is the court saying that they don't see irreparable harm from implementation in the short term until the court actually decides the merits of the case.
And they will revisit it in a couple of months, right?
Irreparable harm is a very high standard to meet. And so unless you could prove that those who are waiting to come over will suffer some irreparable harm, by being delayed for a few months, it's important for the court to allow the administrative action to stay in place, again, unless there's a showing of irreparable.
And it was a 7-2 ruling. I mean, it wasn't the 5-4 conservative liberal. It was 7-2, and I think it was also an acknowledgement by the court that the president has the right to set immigration policy. He was in his authority. Now they'll weigh the impact of that policy.
Yeah, I don't support the ban, but
Islamophobia?
I understand the ruling.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. It feeds into this concept that some people are inherently more dangerous than others, and in our culture, those people are almost always people of color that are painted as more dangerous than others. People of color, people who aren't Christian, people who are from places that we maybe don't really understand. It creates this. It feeds to the Islamophobia that already exists, and that leads to people doing awful things. And the thing about this irreparable harm standard is, once the person's already suffered the irreparable harm, it's a bit late, isn't it?
All right. Coming up, saving the internet. We are going to talk about net neutrality and what it means for you. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back. Now we are going to talk about net neutrality. What is it? We got to boil this down. A lot of folks don't even understand it. You wrote a column about it, so you have a good grasp on it. What is it, and what does it mean for folks?
Okay, so the question is whether or not the internet should be treated as a utility provider, like a phone company, right? Phone companies are required to provide the same service regardless of the content being sent over the phone. Obama-era regulations enforce something called net neutrality, which means that the internet is, all traffic on the internet is privileged the same way. If you are Comcast, for example, and you offer a streaming video service, you cannot slow down speeds for Netflix or a competing streaming video service, or require them to pay more for higher speeds, so that maybe then your product becomes more attractive. Sometimes this sort of thing seems very moot to people, because we're talking about, when we read about it, we're talking about a couple seconds, or we're not talking about like 10 minutes while you wait for your video to load. But there's a lot of research that shows that every like 1/10 of a second that goes by as people wait for a website or internet service to load, they're more likely to click to something else. So what the FCC is voting on Tuesday is they want to overturn these regulations, and they would allow internet service providers to sort of charge differently for different kinds of services. They say it will encourage investment. Small businesses say it will actually quash innovation, because they're not able to access the same sort of fast lanes on the internet that large companies with big pocketbooks can do. So this is something not a lot of people understand. It's pretty important. It's a lot of back-end stuff. It's not like your Comcast bill might go up, but like your Netflix bill could go up, your Amazon bill could go up, the next Etsy or Pinterest or some small startup may not be able to make a go of it. Contact the FCC if you have strong feelings about this. You can Google net neutrality. There's tons of information, and weigh in if you care about it. And Reggie, you had mentioned you're not surprised that this is coming up at this point, right?
Yes. Net neutrality was designed to create a level playing field, and as was pointed out by Nancy, to make sure that one's resources didn't determine one's ability to access the internet at faster speeds. And so this administration believes in deregulation. So this administration would naturally disfavor net neutrality.
Sandra, anytime the government gets involved in trying to create a level playing field, it usually turns that field into a muddy mess. The internet has developed very nicely
with net neutrality.
For the last how long? But it's been very short term in place. But the internet has developed
under de facto net neutrality since
de facto, but not with these regulations. It's developed very nicely
with a looser, just formalized the way it's
with a looser regulatory hand. I think the market has been an efficient regulator. You don't want to cut off innovation, and you don't want to saddle these companies with regulations going to drive up costs for everybody.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be watching the FCC's decision obviously this week too as well. So Jerusalem, this was big this week. This made big news. The president declaring Jerusalem the capital of Israel. Many calling on him not to beforehand, saying this is going to spark violence and incite violence in that region, also in the U.S. as well. Many are calling this controversial. Why is this a big deal?
Anytime you surprise our allies in NATO and disappoint them at the same time, that's a problem. And that's what's occurred here. The administration could have taken time to brief our allies, to have them understand the president's decision here, and to put into place some safeguards that might reduce the potential for violence as a result. I'm not saying that the administration is wrong in what it's doing, but I think the process wasn't put into place properly.
Do you think, Portia, folks in Washington were surprised by this move?
Well, were they surprised? I don't know. For a year, we've seen things like this happen from this administration. So I don't know how caught off guard we are anymore. I mean, disappointed, absolutely. I don't think they take the time to think about the effect it's going to have, both in the short term and the long term. I was hopeful because I read that the Muslim Palestine was going to talk to Putin, and I figured if Putin doesn't agree with it, then maybe Trump will reverse his decision because he pretty much does what Putin wants him to do. So hopefully that will happen. I just think it was an overreach at this point. It wasn't necessary.
Republican and Democratic presidents going back for decades have opted not to do this because this is obviously the situation in Israel between Israel and Palestine is obviously very sensitive. Any move made by outside forces does not help stabilize that, like any move like this. Again, Democratic and Republican presidents have all opted not to make this move. Trump has, and that means that whatever consequences happen, we own some of.
They've opted not to do it, but they've promised to do it. It has been it was the official position of both the Obama administration and the Bush administration that Israel or Jerusalem should be recognized as Israel's capital. Israel has a right to declare its capital, and it's been for all practical effect, the U.S. has recognized that capital. The U.S. I talked to the former U.S. Ambassador Dan Shapiro under the Obama administration this morning. He said his official office was in Tel Aviv. He did all of his business every single day in Jerusalem. You know, this idea that we're not going to recognize the capital that the nation picks for itself, I think is offensive, and it challenges Israel's legitimacy. I think this was a powerful statement that Israel's a legitimate state, and also a clear signal to the Palestinians that Jerusalem is going to remain with Israel, and they can get over the fantasy that the Jews are going to be driven out of Jerusalem. It's not going to happen.
All right. Coming up, how might your commute into downtown Detroit be changing? We're going to break it down for you when we come back. This past week, MDOT shared two practical alternatives for changing I-375, which leads right into downtown Detroit. Let's go ahead and talk about it with Detroit Free Press columnist John Gallagher. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure, my pleasure.
So let's talk about the existing I-375 as it is right now. A lot of folks have argued over the years it doesn't really meet, the city's needs. How so?
Well, when they built it back in 1964, the idea was to get as much traffic in and out of the city as you possibly could, as fast as you could. And now we believe much more in walkable urbanism, letting people, street life is more important, retail life. And so the idea now is to remove this expressway, as a lot of cities are removing expressways, and replace it with a surface street that would be a boulevard, lots of landscaping, bicycle lanes, lots of new lighting, lots of amenities for the people who actually are there and not just the high-speed commuters. So that's what we'll probably see. MDOT wants to move ahead probably in about 4 or 5 years with that.
And aside from walkability, what else could it do in terms of adding to this revitalization of downtown?
Well, walkability is a big part of it. You could walk from downtown to the neighborhoods to the east, more so than you can now. It also would connect to the riverfront in a better way. Right now it doesn't at all. And so it would connect down to the Riverwalk and open that up. And so neighborhoods to the north would find it easier to get down to the waterfront. So I think it would do a lot to enhance that street life downtown.
And I know the public has given input on this.
Yes.
And we're down to 2 options. We have some images we want to show you here. And maybe, John, you can explain what we're looking at.
Sure. Well, they're basically the same, except the service drive on one is on the east side of this boulevard. That is on the residential side. And on the other option, it's on the downtown side, and that has to do with whether or not employers like Blue Cross need the service drive right next to them or should be on the other side, and how deliveries get in and out. And so it's more of a technical point. Both options basically bring 375 up to the surface, create this boulevard where traffic moves in two directions with a landscaped median and lots of other landscaping around it and the bike lanes and so on.
It's hard when you're looking at them to really decipher the change, right?
Right. Well, these are done by traffic engineers.
Right, so it's probably meant by design.
Right.
And we're talking about, what, 2022 by the time this is all complete?
Well, right now the plan is to start building it in 2022. So, you know, things take a while in road construction. So I would imagine it might be 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now before it actually opens up.
And obviously this comes at a time when there is so much happening downtown. Dan Gilbert's latest purchases, I mean, this could be huge for the city.
Right. Well, if you think about it, if everything happens that's on the books and approved and moving forward, you'll get Dan Gilbert's breaking ground this coming week on his tallest building in Detroit on the Hudson site. The Gordie Howe Bridge is supposed to start work at the end of next year. Gilbert's got 2 or 3 other major projects taking place. 375 could happen, and so, you know, in 5 years, downtown could be a much different downtown than it is now.
And do you think that one building, you know, even as massive as it is, could help put Detroit on the national map, the global map?
Well, I don't think one building by itself does it, but I think as part of a broader effort, emphasizing street life and retail and residential and a real city, a real downtown neighborhood. I think that's very significant. I think the Hudson's building, that Gilbert's building, will be sort of a new postcard image for the city, the way the Ren Center has been for the last 40 years. So it could be significant that way. But it takes more than one building to make a city. Sure,
but significant also in terms of architecture and innovation and a lot of eyes on Detroit, looking at what we're doing as an example.
Right, yeah, no doubt. This is a bid that Gilbert's making to do really a iconic new architecture in downtown Detroit, and I think he's got a good shot at achieving it.
And we don't have a name for it yet, but you know, we mentioned public input for I-375, so there's public input on the skyscraper as well.
Well, we asked readers at the Free Press what they wanted to see this new building named, and overwhelmingly they wanted the name Hudson's in there somewhere. Hudson's Tower, Hudson's Building. So there's a lot of desire to keep that Detroit history part of our city's future.
And nostalgic, too.
And nostalgic, a lot of nostalgia for it.
All right, thank you so much,
My
John.
pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me today for Flashpoint. Devin will be back next week. Meet the Press is next, right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit. Have a great day.